Hey, what's up guys, BHA Tech Hunter here, and today I have a quite interesting video for you. As I promised in the last one, this is not going to be another boring mic review. Today we're going to be doing a budget cooler showdown. So I bought these two aftermarket CPU coolers off of Amazon. Both these coolers are below the $40 price point, so they allow you to have a fairly budget oriented cooler, and they will allow you to overclock and run lower thermals, allowing your CPU to last longer. So starting from the bare minimum, we have the AMD Wraith Spire, which comes in the packaging with most AMD CPUs. It's quite fairly well equipped to handle stock loads and provides respectable thermals. We also have the DEEPCOOL GAMMAXX 400 coming in at $19.99 USD. It seems to be quite a similar design to the Hyper 212 Evo. It features a 120mm fan and 8 heat pipes. Now finally, the most common aftermarket cooler, the Hyper 212 Evo, which is basically a lot of people's first upgraded cooler, and it comes in at 35 USD. This one also features 8 heat pipes and a 120mm fan, yet it's a bit bigger of a design. So how well does it hold up against its cheaper competition? I'll touch more on that in a moment here. We'll be talking about a couple different things, including the performance of each cooler during stock and overclocking loads, and the difficulty of installing all three coolers, which is what we'll talk about in this first segment here. So we'll just jump right into that. So in terms of ease of install, the AMD Wraith Spire cooler definitely wins this category by a landslide. It's built specifically for AMD platform. Comes with the correct mounting brackets. You screw in 4 screws. It takes about 5 minutes to do. It's very easy. It's not scary in any way. It's quite simple. They've done a good job with that. So A+ to AMD for that. Next up, I'm going to say the Hyper 212 Evo wins a solid second place. It does take a bit of a long time to install. I'd say 15 minutes for your first time doing it. And it is a bit scary as it typically can flex the motherboard a little bit, and that makes it kind of scary to install. And in the final category, taking the solid F, the DNF, we have the DEEPCOOL GAMMAXX 400, which I ordered it off of Amazon, and the product page said it specifically supported AMD AM4, which is the socket that the Ryzen 1600 uses. And unbehold to me, it didn't come with the right mounting brackets for AM4. So to get this thing to mount, I had to use a combination of the Hyper 212 Evo using its mounting hardware to get it to mount so I could do my thermals. I am now going to be returning this to Amazon, and I will be continuing with my Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo that I already had. So that kind of wraps up this segment. Next, I'm going to jump to a quick unboxing that I filmed of the the GAMMAXX 400, and we'll just jump right into that. We're here in the unboxing portion of the DEEPCOOL GAMMAXX 400, so let's just get right into it. It seems like a pretty good box. I actually really like cooler boxes. They always seem to have a nice feel to them. And it's basically a pretty simple unboxing. There's your cooler. Nice aluminum cooler. Feels pretty quality, doesn't feel cheap, the edges aren't sharp. And you get your little mounting brackets. On this side, open it up like this. And you have all this in here. All of this fun stuff. And your little bit of thermal paste. It all feels quality, it's all pretty standard, nothing too special about it. All in all, it feels pretty good. So now we're just going to jump right into the performance graphs, and you can see here in the first graph, this is the stock performance, and you can see that the coolest one is tied with the Hyper 212 Evo, both at 31 Celsius, and the GAMMAXX is coming in at 32, so 1 degree hotter. It's a little bit warmer, but it's not really much to talk about. So jumping over to the full load graph, we can see that the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo is coming in at the lowest at 61 degrees Celsius. And then jumping up in the graph, we have the GAMMAXX 400, which comes in at 63, so a 2 degrees disparity between those two. And then all the way up there in Inferno land is the AMD Ravespire cooler coming in at 75 Celsius, which is quite a big jump. You can see that it's adequate, like 75 isn't terrible, but it's definitely not as good as either of those coolers. Considering that is a big jump, it's almost 15 degrees Celsius difference between the Cooler Master and the AMD box cooler. Now, if you're buying an aftermarket cooler, what you really are probably caring about is overclocking performance. So I overclocked my Ryzen 1600X to 3.6 gigahertz, and it comes in at, let's see here, the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo comes in at the coolest as always, and it comes in at 36 Celsius in idle, and the GAMMAXX 400 comes in at 1 degrees hotter at 37, and then up there is the 38 Celsius that the AMD Ravespire cooler is producing. And jumping into the final graph under full load of 8 to 64 for 30 minutes, we have the AMD box cooler coming in at, again, 83 Celsius, all the way up there in Inferno land. I had to extend the graph from what I originally planned just to account for that one cooler. And then going down, we have the GAMMAXX 400 at 75, which is just pretty good. It's not horrible. And then down there at 71 Celsius, we have the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo. And that sort of just wraps it up. As you can see, that all the coolers are relatively adequate, except the box cooler in overclocking loads. You really don't want to be over 80 Celsius, as during overclocking, to keep those kind of high clocks up, you have to apply more and more voltage, or you can risk stability issues, and really running at 83 Celsius is not really what AMD recommends, and you kind of just want to stay below 80, especially if you're overclocking. It just makes it a lot more efficient. So that kind of wraps up this segment. Alrighty, so that brings us to our final segment, the wrap up, the overview, the end, as you could say. And all these coolers have their pros and cons. The AMD cooler is easy to use, and if you don't plan to overclock, then there is no reason to upgrade it. It's perfectly fine. It just does its job well. It's quiet, and it's easy to install, and all of that stuff combined just make it a pretty good cooler. And then coming in at the number 2 slot, because I would say the AMD came in third, in the number 2 slot, I'm going to say the GAMMAXX. The GAMMAXX could have won this review. It was so close. It's $10 cheaper than the Hyper 212 Evo. And if it would have just had the AMD mounting bracket that I needed, I recommend it if you don't need an AM4 mounting bracket. If you're on Intel, then it's definitely a good choice. I like it a lot. It's quiet, and it operates within usually 3 degrees of the Hyper 212 Evo for $10 less, and it has the RGB LED fan, and you know, it's good. It's good price, it's good value, it's good build quality, and all that good stuff. And our champion that I can't show you, but I can show you the box, the Hyper 212 Evo. It always comes back to this, doesn't it, for everyone? The Hyper 212 Evo comes in at a good price point, offers the best performance of all of the coolers. It was the lowest in every single one of the graphs. It's fairly easy to install, and it's not too loud. It can get very quiet, especially when it's not under strenuous load. And honestly, for me, I think it takes the show, as Cooler Master typically does in this budget segment. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. Leave your suggestions for a new video, something you want to see reviewed, down below. The next video is going to be something a little different, a little more back to basics. And I already have the next 3 videos lined up. So I think the next videos, if you like this one, you're definitely going to like what's up next. So as always, I'm Hunter from BHA Tech, and I'll see you in the next one.